Hey, folks, so glad you're here. This is a guided personal geometry experiential where I'll walk you through a process to explore what your body knows about the heart sexuality split or unsplit. This mini-sode was inspired by a request Lauren Gleason made off air to me at the end of my last episode on personal geometry, episode 31, Giving the Body Language. Allie in the hot seat. So if you're feeling a little lost or like you might have missed something, well, you did. Go check that episode out for the full context. And if you've already listened, you're likely sitting there with your pen and your sticky notes thinking, okay, get on with it already. So I will. Here we go. I will talk you through a process, a body mapping of the heart sexuality split. For some people, there's a lot of congruency or alignment or merging, you could say, between the heart and the genitals or sexuality. I think it's important to say first, what do I mean by heart? I'm talking in this case about the emotional, romantic heart, how one is in relationship to a sexual love interest. So I want to be clear, this isn't like a child or an animal or art or life. This is specifically your romantic sexual heart and your sexuality, which could be specifically your genitals. Our friend Gil Headley calls them intimate parts, pars intima. You can call them whatever you want. Or your sexuality might feel like something more general or more holistic than just your genitals. I find this mapping so helpful to people to recognize where they are at this time, generally in relationship within themselves, because many of us have split these things either through personal experience, trauma, education, religious influences. We might be very aligned with one person, one lover, and not with another. It could be voluntarily that way. There might be a time in your life where you feel really aligned with someone or every lover you have, or you might feel very disconnected and not wanting those things to be together if you're in a recreational sex phase in your life, or maybe you've gone through a breakup and your heart's busted, but you have sexual needs and desires and you want to be able to engage, but your heart isn't very available. Maybe you're in a long-term relationship with one person, and yet you go through phases where you feel like your heart and your sexuality are really merged within yourself and with that person. And there might be times where your heart's there, but your sex isn't, or vice versa. Might be different because you're in a different phase of life with your hormones, with your priorities. So there's all kinds of ways that this will alter, will morph and be reflected by this process. It will also, as we go a little further into it, change perhaps when we bring in a specific lens through which you might want to look at this split, because you might be very unsplit with one person, or say if you bring in something to represent a past love, it might have been a peak experience or a peak relationship in your life where you felt so merged with that person and it's been hard for you to let it go. And somebody you're with right now where they're in very different placement. So it can be very helpful to see, oh, it's this way in this instance, but not in another. And as I famously say, what do you want to do about it? So let's begin. I suggest you just put a pause on for a moment. And if you have Post-its, which tend to be ubiquitous for most of us, or you can use objects or rocks or anything in your environment. And you can have a tabletop. A piece of paper is helpful just because that gives you a frame that provides a context in which you make these placements, because sometimes the frame itself gives you a lot of information. Do you place things in the middle? Do you place things at the edge or off the edge? That can be very rich for your understanding and revelations. And you need a pen because it's so important to indicate the gaze, because you have to know if you were 2 inches tall standing on that Post-it, you need to know which direction you're facing. Because again, if things and elements or people can see each other, it's entirely different than if they can't. So there's a lot of felt sense meaning that changes depending on those directions. So when you write what I'm going to suggest you write on your little Post-it, you're also going to put an arrow indicating which direction, if this Post-it had eyes, which direction it would be facing. So let's start by writing on one Post-it, just me with an arrow, heart with an arrow, and sexuality with an arrow. And then you're just going to place these anywhere on the page that reflects your experience of these relationships at this time. Are they close? Are they far away? If they were little people, would they see each other? Would they not see each other? Are they stacked? Are they ripped? Is one not even on the page? There's no right or wrong at all. It's just what your body knows and wants to express at this time about this relationship or these relationships. And if you were to do this again tomorrow or next week, or relative to one person or another, or one situation or another, it would probably be different. But for now, just look at this configuration, this map, and see how it feels to you when you look at it. Do you like it? Do you have some judgment about it? Does it upset you in some way or shame you? Perhaps you feel proud of it. Maybe you feel like, whew, I've come a long way. Does any emotion come up, like sadness, grief, anger, frustration, joy? And notice as you look, as the visual beings that we are, you'll most likely simultaneously have a felt sense experience of what you see. I don't know how that would be for a blind person, but I imagine there would still be sensation in the imagination of where things are in space. And then I suggest you take another Post-it and bring in another element that is unique to you at this time, that is helpful to you, that you're in the midst of inquiring about or curious about or upset about in your life. Is it a specific person? Is it a partner? Is it a hoped for partner? Is it a body part? Is it a surgery or a trauma that you've had that might affect this split or unity? Is it orgasm specifically, which can really affect how people experience this relationship? Is it a past love? Is it a religion? Is it God? What would help you explore this today? Who or what do you want to experience relative to this relationship? And when you bring in this other element, if it's parents, you can bring in two more elements. You can do whatever you feel to do, but that's my suggestion, is either to bring in one, like I just described, or bring in your mother and your father. What happens to these other three elements? Do they move? Do they stay where they are? Do they become more or less aligned, unified, merged? What do you learn? What do you like or not like about it? And again, what do you feel about it? Does it bring up hope, sadness, elation, gratitude, fear? And then bring in at least one resource. And by resource, I mean something that you can trust in your life that feels good to you, that feels strengthening, that feels empowering. It can be a person, it can be a mentor, it can be a disembodied being, an angel, it can be an animal, flesh and blood animal or a spirit animal, it can be a tree, it can be nature, it can be an inner talent of yours, an inner quality that you have. It could be friendship, it could be reading, it could be anything. And write that on the post-it with an arrow, whatever that resource is that is strengthening to you, and place that somewhere on the paper that feels true to you. And what, if anything, moves? How does this map change when a resource comes in? Does it? So that was just a little taste, and hopefully that was helpful and revelatory. This can have a big impact, even though it's very simple. It can be so helpful to recognize how we've been feeling and how we've been experiencing something, perhaps not consciously, but suddenly we're able to become conscious about it so that we can then find our agency to change it if we don't like it, or celebrate it if we do. So if you have any questions or comments about that, we'd love to hear from you. You can either leave those in the comment section below, or you can write to us at connect@thebrilliantbodypodcast.com. If you want to know more about what I'm up to, you can find all kinds of stuff on www.alimezey.com. And I hope this helped you to experience more of your brilliance. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Now, while listening to guided experientials and doing them in the privacy of your own home can be powerful for sure, experiencing them in real time together is so much more impactful. If that sparked your curiosity, I'd love to invite you to one of our free Eventbrite gatherings where you can join in for live experiences, deeper discussions, a bit of community Q&A, and some of my professional feedback and guidance on your body map. I also offer professional trainings, classes for individuals, one-to-one private sessions, one-to-two private sessions if you need some couple help, and small group sessions for all kinds of bodies with all kinds of issues. Check the show notes for upcoming dates, freebies, and exclusive discounts. Hope to be with you again soon. As always, and more so than ever, keep reclaiming your brilliant body.